Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending this webinar. So now I'll talk a little bit about the latest developments of the product and innovation team. So the most important news from the app's point of view is that the demand forecast is live. So now every client can have access to the demand forecast if he asks for it. And of course, there are some limitations on the data, but the demand forecast has been industrialized. We have many clients using it in production, and it is giving already interesting results. So just a quick reminder about what we wanted to do with the demand forecast. So it's based on machine learning algorithms. And the most important part and the most important aspect that we wanted to focus on was to take into account all the history of a client's account, not only the past year like the estimate, and also try to add some additional features from past activity in order to find correlations in the data and give a more accurate forecast of the future. So the goal remains to understand performance in the past in order to take better decisions in the future. So how does it look like? The general presentation. So we have a separate screen in the apps, in the operations tab, showing all the history of the forecasted data in the past, and of course the forecasted data in the future. And on the same interface, we have also provided the estimate in order to have a single interface where you are able to analyze future predictions. Below that, since last week, we also have some piloting features that show what the forecast is for the current months, and also on a week-by-week basis for the coming months, in order for you to have a synthetic view of what the utilization might be according to the forecast. So at the moment, we have developed some some synthetic piloting analysis on the forecast window. That is our main goal. But I will, as I will explain a bit later, we will also work on integrating the forecast inside other piloting tools. So in this interface, you also have the forecasted on rent for all the days in your forecast window. So you have you can see for every day what the forecast what the on rent will be according to the forecast, and the final utilization according to the fleet plan that you provided. An important aspect about the statistical analysis was to compare the forecast with the estimate. So each day when we generate the forecast for the next 30 days, because it's a default forecast window, we also store at the same time the estimate that the apps are computing for the next 30 days. So we are able in the past to show what the estimate was on that given day and what the forecast was on that given day. The goal is always to provide transparently the most amount of information in the apps, and allow you to go in the past and understand what the apps were telling you in the past and on what figures you made the decision in the past. So you had the estimate for a large amount of time. You did not really know what was the accuracy of the estimate, but now when you activate the forecast module, we give you the ability to compare forecast and estimate accuracy. So sometimes you will find that you have a very good estimate. Sometimes we'll find that your estimate is not good, but at least you will know now what is your estimate accuracy. We also worked on the possibility to customize the forecast to your need. So we can set up for you a custom forecast window. Some clients want a forecast in the 10 coming days, other in the 30 coming days, other for the next 4 months, so 120 days. This is customable. Of course, the shortest the forecast window, the better the accuracy. The longest the forecast window, the less accuracy we have. We all can also configure the milestone in the past, the 5 milestones where you compare forecast and estimate. Maybe you want to know what is your accuracy 10 days before, 20 days before, 30, 40, 50, or 2, 7, 9, 10. You can decide and have these figures. We can also make a custom filter configuration. So if you want a forecast on, say, regions or car types, as long as there is enough data, as there is enough on-rent data consistency, we can set up a forecast on custom filters. And also, we have different models of machine learning that are running by default every night when we compute the forecast. But as I explained in the academy in Paris and at WTM, each of these models have weakness and strengths. Some are better to when the activity has a high variance. Some are better for short terms. Some are better for long terms. So according to your dataset specificity or your custom needs, we can also select what only one model for you, so that only the best model gives a prediction every night. So this is very nice, but we have still many challenges ahead of us to tune the artificial intelligence. So as I said, how to make the best selection of the machine learning models, because we know that for some clients, if we choose the right machine learning model and use only it, it will give better results over time rather than putting in competition several machine learning models. Another interesting feature we can work on is to make a relative forecast versus absolute forecast. I explain at the moment we do an absolute forecast. So every day we compute the absolute figure of on-rent for the next 30 days. What would be very interesting to achieve would be to make a relative forecast. So to make to predict the evolution of on-rent beginning of today, with increases and decreases relative to today's value, which is what is done with the estimate. And since we monitor the estimate accuracy, we notice that actually it's often quite good. So this is something very interesting. Begin with today's situation and predict a relative forecast. And we are working actually on a new model, which is called recurrent neural network that is specialized in predicting these kind of patterns. We are also working on model optimization using cross-validation in order to automatically define what are the best settings for the models in order to improve accuracy. And of course, we would like to include special events inside the forecast. We would say coronavirus, of course. All our clients' forecasts for the next weeks or months will be impacted because last year's activity didn't have coronavirus, and this year activity will include the coronavirus. So some of our algorithms will be able, machine learning models will be able to pick up this trend. So that's where machine learning is very good, because the algorithm will, in 2 or 3 weeks, be able to pick up the trend change due to coronavirus and adjust the forecast, where the estimate will not be able to do it. But still, we think that we have to work specifically to be able to manage events with our forecast. So there are some small figures of challenges, but I will go a bit quicker. So we may have some problems when the seasonality is very changing. We still have problems for long forecast windows, like I said, where we have 4-month forecast windows. And we have problems dealing with small data sets. When we have 40 on rent, a variation of 4 or 5 points means 10% accuracy loss. So this is a challenge. So we have still more features to include, like I said, integrating the forecast data directly into the piloting tools, adding rate shop and price features in order to better understand how prices had an impact on past on rent in order to predict better the future on rent. We want to add airline data to the models, and that will be the second part of my presentation, and also integrating plan history inside the past data analysis to be able to forecast according to fleet plan in the future. So that's the transition to the airline data and how it correlates with car rentals. So last year in Berlin, you had a presentation of Fowardkeys. We are the leaders of airline travel data, and they accepted to run a correlation study on on 3 destinations. Short haul destination, medium haul, long haul, and the main question was, can we find a correlation between airline traffic of passengers and the car rentals for a specific destinations? So Forwardkeys has a lot of data, lots of companies, lots of passenger segments. And the first thing that they did was run correlation studies for hundreds of segments until they found the right passenger segment. And the best passenger segment they found was passengers coming at a given destination and staying there at least 2 nights. So they found that is the most relevant segment that will rent a car during their stay. So first correlation studies was in Nantes Airport, a short haul destination, and the results were just amazing. They found a correlation score of 87% between the on-rent data of our test customer and the segment of passengers at Nantes Airport. So this really means a very strong correlation between the traffic of passengers and the car rentals. So we can really see that for this short haul destination, the rentals are very close. Secondly, we made a correlation study on a medium haul on Marrakesh Airport. And the first results were a bit frustrating because they only found a 50% correlation, which is no correlation at all statistically. But they found the explanation. It's because their main database does not have low-cost company. So they have to run correlation on a special database that they call total air market, which includes an estimation of low-cost company, because low-cost company don't share their actual figure with them. So using this data set, they found a correlation of 75% between the segment of passengers staying at least 2 nights in Marrakesh and the number of rentals of our test client. So still a strong correlation. And then a long-haul destination with the Fort-de-France airport. Similarly, they found a very good correlation score. Caribbean, so in the Caribbean, 75% correlation score. So that is a very impressive figure that knows that if we know the future flow of passengers, we can make a prediction of the future data. So that's the way we can link it to the forecast. And actually, Fowardkeys you also provides a forecast, and that's what they also tried. So here we have the correlation analysis in Marrakesh and Fort-de-France. The historical data are the scores with the actual data. So we have 72%. They did not use exactly the same data set as I showed in my presentation. That's why the figures are a bit different. But still, with historical data, we have 72%. And what with what they would have forecasted, they find almost the same correlation score, and we have the same result in Fort-de-France. So that means that with the forecast data of airline passenger, we have the same correlation almost than historical data. So we can use the forecast passenger traffic in our forecast to have a better model. And last, because it's also interesting to know what will be in the future, standing on today. So we made a study with on the book data for Nantes Airport. And with, so the blue line is Forwardkeys on the book data for airline traffic. And this is the WeYield data inside the apps. So for the future, for the 2 upcoming months, we have an almost a more than 90% correlation between what is already booked for the airline companies and what is already booked for our client. So this shows that for the short-haul destination, there is a strong correlation even on the books. So this is very interesting. I will conclude now with Forwardkeys. So we have seen that there are strong statistical correlation between airline data and rental data for the 3 destinations that we studied. So this would have a great value in the piloting tools in order to include and show the data for the future, the forecasted data, maybe the on-the-book data, maybe the forecasted data. So this would be something shown in the apps, maybe for the airline airports. What is the forecasted traffic for this destination for this segment, for the specific segment with the best correlation? What is the actual on the book? And that would help revenue managers to take pricing decisions. And also we think this would be a great added value for our own forecast, because we found that there are strong correlations in the past, so there will be also strong correlations in the future. Thank you for your attention.
So we need now, guys, your feedback on these new studies to know if you think it would be relevant for you to add this. For sure, the data are not free. Okay, so we are working with our partner to see how we can have a business model attached to this. But you need to show a clear interest or not to see, yes, WeYield, please continue, and we continue the data extract on some destination for you with our partner Forwardkeys. Or if, even though those data are very clear and very intelligent for you, you don't think that it means to pay for this data. It could be a kind of, I don't know, like 5 or 10% to your monthly fee that we could add on top on few airports. Maybe not all the airports are relevant for you. So please give us some feedback to Christian and I, and as well as your customer success managers, to really share your feeling about that.
And Forwardkeys is also asking us about this input, and they will create. They can create a business model for us. So we have to create this. So give us your inputs, and we'll give them back to Forwardkeys and see how we can work it out for everybody.
There is a question. Okay, yes, continue and check for Corsica, please.
Yes, Isabel.
Okay, thank you, Isabel.
We will check.
For sure. Okay, thank you.